Hello, my name is Kimberly Wilson of Tranquility Du Jour, and welcome back to another episode of Tea with Kimberly. Today, I wanted to talk about the 10 types of wellness. So, one of the tenets of Tranquility Du Jour is wellness. I think we all think we know what wellness means, right? Like self care, taking good care of ourselves, eating well, right? But yet, who knew there's 10 types? So I'm going to go through each of them and give you a couple tips with each. And then I encourage you to think about which one needs a little attention in your life and maybe which one are you doing really great at. So the first one, and I've got my list here, is physical. Right. So I think whenever we talk wellness, we think about the physical, right? The physical body, exercise, etc. So, yes, physical definitely means exercise. And it also means what are we doing? What are we putting into our body, which is another type of wellness, nutritional. But also, it's how are we sleeping? um, how are we taking care of ourselves, our physical kind of grounded self? Are we staying hydrated? So, tea, water, making sure that we're constantly kind of consuming water and getting that into our system. So, physical, think of this as your shell and taking really good care of it from these different angles, right? And for some people, even, physical could be anything from like getting a facial, right? Or, going and kind of getting your nails done. I don't know. It's like it can be broad, but think about what does wellness from a physical perspective mean to you? And how is your body, your physical body feeling? Okay, the second one I want to touch on is nutritional. It's kind of ties in, of course, with physical. So I encourage you to track what it is you're eating and how it's making you feel. Now, if that becomes obsessive to you, or you've had eating disorders or anything along those lines where that would feel too restrictive, please don't do that. However, if you find it insightful, like, oh, whenever I have dessert, I find myself quite lethargic in the afternoon or whatever it might be, right? So just paying attention. Also, eating as many colors as possible. When you look at your plate, you want to have a lot of color, right? Vegetables, so colorful. Think all those bell peppers and tomatoes and cucumbers and all of this stuff that we can kind of throw together. Onions, red onions, my favorite, right? So putting them all together in this yummy salad. So, nutritional wellness. So, the third one I want to touch on is medical. So this is everything from your annual eye exam, every 6-month dentist, your annual blood work, going and getting maybe an alternative therapy treatment like acupuncture, things along those lines. Of course, therapy also falls into this. Just taking good care of your physical health, prescriptions, supplements, all of that. Physical health from the medical angle, right? So, knowing and just checking in with like how is my like do I need to get some appointments on the books, right? Because it's like it's a full-time job. Oh, and don't forget like dermatologists, right? We're supposed to get annual skin checks. So the next one, number 4, is spiritual. So how's your spiritual world looking and feeling, right? So spiritual can be, of course, meditation, prayer, getting out in nature. I think of spiritual too as the performing arts, like I live in Washington, D.C., so going to the Kennedy Center, things along those lines are really like, it's like a spiritual experience for me. Also, concerts, I think, can be a spiritual experience. So, next is social wellness. So, building your community and nourishing your community. And also within this, kind of from the social realm, it's like making sure that you are surrounded by like hearted people. And I don't say like minded because we don't want everyone to think the same, right? But to have similar values because it's good to be exposed to other ways of thinking. But think similar values. Environmental. So here's where things like buying local, shopping local, forgoing plastic, toting your reusable teacups and water bottles and forks, things like that can make a big difference in the long haul. Also, the other piece kind of about it is exploring a little bit of zero waste. So there's all sorts of great resources out there on how to be, of course, recycling, but how to be a good steward of the earth. Okay, next, emotional. So polish those coping skills. I mean, we are challenged every day. Sometimes sometimes multiple times a day. And so just knowing like, I need to make sure my self-care is up there. Otherwise, I am easily triggered by a text message, a phone call, a comment, whatever it might be. So making sure that you are taking good care of your emotional health. And when I think coping skills, another thing that comes to mind to me is talking back to that part of yourself that creates stories, right? That's like, oh, your boss is mad at you because you haven't heard from them yet, or they wrote thanks period instead of thanks exclamation mark, right? So notice when we're telling stories, do we know this to be true and factual? And also, you can say to yourself, cancel, cancel. So when those thoughts just kind of keep going and we find ourselves in rumination mode, cancel, cancel. I find that to be a really helpful tool. The other thing from an emotional perspective that I love is like nurturing senses can be quite grounding, particularly for highly sensitive people or people with sensory issues. So, everything from like itchy tags and clothing to bright lights to loud sounds. Like, how can you set up your environment so it nurtures your senses versus overstimulating and causing additional stress? Two others. Occupational. All right. So, from an occupational perspective, building on your skills. Um, Honing in on what are you good at? How can I do more of that? We spend a lot of time trying to get better at where we struggle, which is, good to grow. Definitely encourage that. But also, what about really enhancing those areas where we are a rock star? Like if you're really a great public speaker, how can you build on that? Okay, also from an occupational wellness perspective, it's like, all right, what about connecting more with colleagues, deepening my communication skills, learning a new skill, right? So these are all things from an occupational perspective that can help us in the wellness realm. We have two more, financial and behavioral. Okay, so financial, maybe tracking your spending, setting up a budget, telling yourself, I'm gonna give myself 48 hours before I hit buy online. Whatever it might be that just helps you get clearer on your finances, saving for retirement, and also allows you to be smarter about the choices that we make. And then the last one I want to mention, behavioral. So, behavioral is like, can you track your habits? Are your habits nourishing and nurturing you, or do you find that they're actually not supporting you? And if so, we want to, of course, make some changes. And also from a behavioral perspective, cutting out if it's not serving you, of course, caffeine, sugar, alcohol, things along those lines. And again, like from a lifelong learning perspective, how can you keep growing? And when I say lifelong learning, it's not even so much towards occupational goal of right deepening a skill set for work, but it's for personal. Like maybe you want to learn French, right? It has nothing to do with your career, but you want to do that as a kind of personal goal, right? So these are the 10 types of wellness. And I encourage you is to think about which one am I like, I need a little more attention there. I want to be more connected to my emotional wellness. I need to make all those medical appointments. I need to be more in touch with my budget, right? Whatever it might be. So as you move forward, thinking about wellness from a broader perspective with encapsulating all these 10 realms. So I hope this is helpful. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I wish you a wonderful and very well day ahead.